Hey, this is Russ. Hey, I wanted to highlight a couple of guitars for you. These are guitars that were given to me, not all of them, but originally I was going to highlight just 2 guitars, but I think I'll highlight 3 guitars for you today. And the first one here is this one here. Let me show you real quickly what this one looks like here. This is the Gibson Les Paul 25th anniversary model. Okay, you can tell that from the logo. Now, if you look at the logo, it says 2550. And the reason is because it's the 25th anniversary of the Les Paul guitar model, but it's also the 50th anniversary that Les Paul himself was in the music business, all right? And I recall asking my father back in the day, this guitar came out in 1978, but the actual 25th anniversary was actually 1977. So Gibson came out 1 year later than they should have to come up with this model. But I remember asking my dad to get me this guitar. I saw an ad in Guitar Player magazine, and I said to him that, if we got this guitar, it will one day probably be a collector's item. And he asked me, he says, do you really want this? And I says, yeah. I says, I wouldn't mind having it and hanging on to it because it will go up in value one day. So he says, okay, if you can find it, we'll consider it. So I called a store called the Sound Post in Evanston, Illinois. And we had bought a number of items there in the past. And so I said, hey, do you guys happen to have the 25th anniversary Les Paul? And they said, yes, we have one item. And it was actually the guitar that was shown at the National Association of Music Merchants Convention. That's the NAMM show back in 1978. And so I said, hang on to the guitar, we'll be right down. So we went down there to take a look at the guitar, and sure enough, my dad decided to buy it for me. So back in the day, I think he paid $1,275, $1,295, something like that for this guitar. If you look at that in 2020 dollar amounts, that's about $5,100. So this is not a inexpensive guitar by any means. But really, what makes this a little bit different, this is very similar to a Gibson Les Paul Custom back in those days. The neck profile is very similar to that. And, gold humbucking pickups. But what they did a little bit differently is they added this little switch here. And what this does is this is a coil tap that taps the pickups here, so you can turn it from one sound to another. So it's a little thinner type of sound if you flip it one way, and a little deeper sound if you flip it the other way. And they added a brass nut here instead of a typical bone nut or anything that they would have had back in the day. And then they also changed the tail piece to a tunable tailpiece, so you could actually fine-tune the tuning with these controls here. The back of the guitar is very similar to most Les Pauls, and nothing really different, but this is a 5-ply neck. You can't really see it that well in the video. But yeah, I keep it very good. I don't, it's not all scratched up or anything like that. I'm always very careful with my guitars. And the reason this guitar is special to me is because my dad bought it for me. And just before my dad passed away, he actually asked me about the guitar. He says, do you still have the guitar? And I says, yeah, I do. Now, I didn't tell him at the time, but I have no intentions of ever selling this guitar. I'll pass this down to my daughter, and then she has instructions never to sell it either. So this will be something that'll stay within our family. It has special meaning to me because it reminds me of my dad, and my dad went out of his way to get it for me, and hopefully my daughter feels the same way, and we'll keep this with her and pass it down as well. So this is one guitar that I will never sell, all right? I want to show you one more guitar. Sit tight for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I wanted to show you this guitar. This is a 12-string guitar. This guitar was actually given to me. At one time, I was a moderator for the Acoustic Guitar Forum, which is the largest guitar forum of its type on the internet. And I was a moderator for them for a number of years. And we used to hold get-togethers in Chicago. I would host some other people would host some. And there was a gentleman, his name was John, okay? Now, there's one get-together we had. I mentioned to him not to him, but actually to everybody. I just said, you know, I think my buying days of guitars are over. And I've gone through a lot of guitars, especially acoustic guitars. I think I've gone around 40 guitars over my lifetime. Now, I don't keep all these things. I buy them, I sell them, and, you know, kind of trade them through. And so they knew that I went through quite a few guitars, and I told them, I says, you know, I don't think I'll be buying any more for any time soon, but one day I would like to buy a 12-string again. And John says, well, I have a 12-string. And I go, well, that's nice. And anyways, John lives up in Michigan, and so he travels down to Chicago to get to these gatherings. And so anyways, we did our get-together. I think it was on a Saturday typically. And then he, during the week, he calls me up the following Sunday, and he says, are you home? I said, yeah, I'm home. He says, don't go anywhere. I'm heading down in that direction. I'll be down in about 3 or 4 hours, I think he said. And I have something I want to give you. I says, oh, okay. So he drives all the way down 3 to 4 hours from Michigan down to the Chicago area, and rings my doorbell and says, I have this guitar I want to give you. Now, when he mentioned that he had a 12-string guitar, I just thought he mentioned that he had a 12-string guitar. But in reality, what he was saying that he had a 12-string guitar he planned to give to me. Now, the interesting reason I wasn't able to buy any more guitars is because on that evening, I got a text message from my daughter, who at that time told me that she had been accepted to the college of her choice. So I knew that going to college was going to be expensive. And I said, there's no way I'm going to be buying guitars with that. So John thought, well, I have a guitar and I'm going to give it to him. So he drives all the way down, and this is an Alvarez. Let me show you real quickly the headstock. Okay, it's an Alvarez. It's not a very expensive guitar, but it's probably around $350. But it plays very well. And he says to me, he says, well, I knew that you wouldn't be able to buy any guitars anymore, and I have this 12-string. I don't really use it. I was planning either to donate it somewhere or whatever, but I'm going to give it to you. So I was surprised. I says, well, come on in, you know. And he says, oh, no. I like the drive. It's not a big deal. I'm going to turn around and head back to Michigan now. So he drives 3 or 4 hours, comes down, talks to me for about 5 minutes, never comes into the house, turns around and heads back to Michigan. Now, that is an interesting story. I don't ever plan to sell this guitar, not because it's an expensive guitar or anything, it's because of what he did. Nobody's ever given me a guitar except for my dad. And so I says, you know, with that kind of heart, I'm planning on keeping this guitar. And like I said, it does play very well. It sounds very good. You can hear it on the Ventura Highway video that I did. And in fact, if you watch the Have You Ever Seen the Rain video, you'll see the Gibson Les Paul. So I just wanted to highlight these two guitars. There's one more guitar I want to show you and talk a little bit about. Sit tight for a second. I'll bring that back. Hold on. All right. I'm back. I wanted to show you this guitar. Now, you've seen this one as well on many of my videos. This one's a little different. If you take a look at it, it has a sound hole that's up here, not in the center. Okay, let me talk a little bit about this guitar. Now, this is not a guitar that I would keep if given the chance something else came around that I prefer to have. Okay, now, of them all, this is the most expensive guitar. I think this is a McPherson. It's an MG3.5. And I think McPherson's today they start at $8,900. So they're not inexpensive guitars at all. They only go up from that point, okay? This one's a little bit different than the standard stock one. This one has an Engelmann spruce top, and these are solid guitars. The 12-string had a laminate side and back, which means it's like a plywood with a maple laminate on top of it, versus this is solid woods. So this one has Engelmann spruce top, has East Indian rosewood back and sides, okay? And then all the binding is out of koa, all right? So what's unique about this guitar is that where the neck joins the guitar, there's actually a gap in here. I'll see if I can do a close-up a little later here for you so you can see it. But this gap means that the neck actually doesn't touch the body. it's actually open. It's kind of like violins. Violins are actually made that way too, that the neck actually doesn't touch the violin body. And that gives the guitar top ability to vibrate more, so you have better sustain and things like that. And it's got a carbon fiber truss rod, which is really heavy. It's actually so heavy that the guitar tends to tip forward this way when you have it on a strap because the neck is that heavy. But the reason they do this is so that the guitar can't change in pitch. I hadn't touched my guitars for years. Once I opened my photography school, I really didn't play my guitars that much. And even after a couple of years just sitting in the case, nobody really touching it, the guitar was perfectly in tune. And that's attributed to the fact that this neck doesn't move. It's solid. The bracing is done a little bit differently too. Okay, they have special bracing. I'll show you some photos from their website that kind of shows their special bracing. And then also, the reason they have this sound hole on the side is so that there's more ability for the top to vibrate where the strings are, okay? And internally for electronics, this has an LR Baggs dual source electronics in here. So I can plug it in here if I wanted to and plug in and play live. There's a microphone built into the guitar, and of course there's an under saddle pickup here as well. The 12 string that was given to me too has a pickup. That has a LR Baggs Elements pickup, which is an under saddle pickup, but it doesn't have the built-in microphone inside the body of the guitar, right? So I believe this was, somebody had changed this. I bought this one used actually. This was changed over for the dual source microphone built in there, plus the undersaddle. So I have a couple of different tones I can do. What else? This is a 3.5. What that means is that where the body is back here is 3.5 inches, but it moves up to, I think there's a 4-inch or 4.5 inch, something like that, up here. So it tapers down. And the reason is because it makes it easier to hold the guitar, so it's not sticking way out and your arm is sticking out here. It's thinner and back here. So this actually is a very comfortable guitar to play. And so I bought this used off of somebody on the acoustic guitar forum. I bought and sold a lot of guitars on the forum, and it's in mint condition. There's no scratches or dents or anything like that on this guitar. So why is it that I won't keep this guitar if I find something better? Well, I'm not that attached to it in that sense. The other two guitars have some significance to me. This is a really good guitar. I've had it for many, many years now. I don't see myself selling it, but I'm not as attached to this as I am to the other two guitars. So anyways, I just wanted to highlight these guitars for you so that you know where they're coming from, and hopefully you got a little bit of education on some guitars. Anyways, if you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit it all, and I will talk to you guys next time.